All right, welcome to the 2026 Growth Predictions webinar. Thank you for showing up. My name is Sam Palazzolo. Real strategies, real results are what I promise and deliver. Let's get started. I've got 30 minutes worth of content. Then we'll do some Q&A. I'm going to move fast, so let's get into it here. Again, here's what you're going to get from me today. This is my promise. Most prediction webinars are total BS. We have these so-called gurus that have never worked anywhere. They've never, I don't know where they've gone to school or been educated. And I don't know where in the world they're calling in or videoing in from. Worse yet, they make bold claims. They never revisit them or are held accountable, and they move on immediately, especially once they take your money. And today, I'm doing the opposite. For those of you that don't know who I am, my background consists of being a two-time exiting entrepreneur. I've worked Fortune 500, and I've sandwiched in between some consultation work at Deloitte. I also have been fortunate enough to attend some of the world's best educational institutions, like Indiana University, Vanderbilt University, the University of Pennsylvania, London School of Business. Enough about me. Today in this predictions webinar, I'm going to show you what I got right in 2025, what I got embarrassingly wrong as well. No shame. And what it cost the companies who listen to me. And then I'll walk you through what I actually see for 2026. Not what sounds good on LinkedIn, what's getting the most likes or comments here, but what's actually working from companies I'm inside of right now. Sound good? All right. Sounds great. Then here we go. These are my 2025 predictions. So last year in November of 2024, I made 3 predictions. 2 hit, 1 missed badly. So let's start with what I got right. Okay. This is prediction number 1 from last year. I called it the AI washing crash. The AI washing crash. Last year, this time, I predicted companies would fire their AI consultants by Q3 of 2025. Why? Because most of these AI implementations were pure theater, not transformation. You see, companies were paying consultants about $250K to come in and build AI roadmaps that sat in SharePoint, while their actual problems were people, processes, and pipeline. Here's a real world example for you. A $38 million SaaS company I know, they spent about $847,000, so just short of $1 million, with an AI vendor who set out to transform their GTM motion, go-to-market motion, right? Well, 6 months later, close rates unchanged. Pipeline down 12%. PowerPoints galore that nobody read all over the place. Guess what? In August, they fired the vendor. They hired a fractional CRO who fixed their discovery process and pricing in 90 days. The revenue, it's up 23% so far in Q4. And we just passed the halfway point. The lesson here, AI doesn't fix broken fundamentals. Most companies needed better execution, not better algorithms. Let's move on to prediction number 2. I call it the talent unbundling. The talent unbundling. I predicted last year that companies would stop overpaying for full-time executives when they only needed 20% of that person's capacity. I mean, why would you hire a $300,000 to $500,000 full-time CXO when you're not ready to execute on 80% of what they build? Here's another real-world example for you. 3 companies, same revenue range, about 12 million to 100 million top-line revenue. Company A, they brought me in fractionally. 2 days a month, cost them $120K. I saved them over 180K versus a full-time associate. And the revenue, we grew at 34%. Company B, similar model, fractional CRO, saved the organization 240K this time. They're on the path to a PE exit in 18 months, something I also help with that type of inorganic growth. Company C, they went traditional. They hired a 480K full-timer who lasted 9 months. They're on hire number 2. They burned a year. The unbundling out there, it's real. Smart money, it's buying expertise, not headcount. Here's my prediction number 3 from last year. I call it the miss. The Series BC Desert is what I titled it. The Series BC Desert. And I got this one wrong. I thought VCs would starve the middle market. I predicted a 60% drop in Series B and Series C activity. And the numbers say that I missed so far this year. Unless some miracle hits, that because Series B and Series C funding, it was down only to 28%. So I missed. But here's what I didn't see coming. The rounds that did happen, they had terms that were so punitive. They might as well have been debt, which is one of my 3 legs of the venture funding stool, right? Leg number 1, capital raise. We'll receive capital in exchange for giving up equity. Leg 2 of the stool, debt funding. We'll receive capital in exchange for interest payment on top of debt obligation. And third leg of the stool, customer funding, my favorite model. I talked to 3 founders who took Series B round capital in 2025, and all 3 had 2x liquidation preferences, full ratchet anti-dilution, and lost board control. One shared with me, Sam, I raised $15 million and own 11% of my company now. Congratulations to me, right? So was I wrong? Technically, the percentages I was off on. But those founder stories that I just shared with you, I'm betting that those founders might wish I'd been right, because sometimes no deal is better than a bad deal. And the lesson here with prediction number 3, I focused on the volume. I should have been focused on terms, because quality matters more than quantity in these capital markets. So that's my 2025 scoreboard or scorecard. I had 2 hits. I had 1 miss. Now let's talk about 2026, because this is where I see smart money flowing. I will give you a guess. It's not where LinkedIn says it is, because you and I both know everyone on LinkedIn is an expert on where capital is going. They read TechCrunch, they regurgitate artificial intelligence takes, and they call it analysis. Here's what I'm actually seeing, though. The real capital map, okay? There's 5 different areas, 5 things that you need to know right now in order to be able to capitalize on 2026. The first thing I'm seeing is that boring businesses are back, baby. They are back. PE is done with sexy tech. They want cash flow, predictable revenue, boring things like HVAC software, medical billing. If it sounds unsexy and it prints money, it's getting multiple bids and 6 to 8x EBITDA offers. The cool SaaS company down the street, 10 million ARR, losing 3 million a year, the one that was getting 10, 15x a few years ago, they can't and they shouldn't get a term sheet. So that's item 1 here. Item 2, the middle market desert. The middle market desert. Back to that Series B and Series C funding. Well, for unprofitable companies, this is dead. Here's what nobody's willing to talk about, but I will. 10 million to 50 million top line revenue, profitable companies in boring sectors they can't find growth capital. I mean, VCs and PEs won't touch them. Nor will family offices for some reason. Quick story about that in a second. I think that venture capital and private equity finds these too small, not sexy. Um, you know, PE would also like to have them be bigger organization. I think there's a bazillion-dollar opportunity out there to be capital partner for profitable, overlooked companies. And we're going to do something about it at Tip of the Spear, our family office. We have a 2026 non-liquidating $100 million fund that we're throwing out there. More on that later. That's item number 2. Item number 3 here of where the real capital is at is geographic arbitrage is real. You know, everyone's fighting over these deals in San Francisco, New York City, Austin, Texas. But the smart money's looking around in Nashville, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, Charlotte. Think same quality companies, 30 to 40% cheaper valuations, extremely less competition. I know 3 family offices that are quietly building portfolios in these secondary markets, and the returns, they're at about 2x the coastal deals. That's item 3. Item 4, I call it the roll-up renaissance, the roll-up renaissance. Fragmented industries with 1,000 small operators, that's where capital is deploying. So think dental practices, med spas, HVAC, pest control. Why? Because predictable cash flow plus operational leverage plus tax advantage equal success. I know several PE firms are building billion-dollar platforms from $2 million EBITDA acquisitions at a time. That's item 4. Item 5 of where the capital map is, it's defense tech. Finally, it took a war, but defense tech is getting real money now, not dual use vapor, actual DoD contracts. And I don't care what you read about those Doge cuts from earlier this year. There's real money at play here. So if you're in autonomy, cyber, drones with a legit defense customer, you can raise at decent terms, finally. And those are my 5 items of where I see the money going. Now, here are my predictions for what all of this means, my 2026 predictions. I have 3 predictions for 2026. So if you haven't taken notes to this point, start taking notes. Because here's prediction number 1. I call it the go-to-market inversion. The go-to-market inversion. Right now, B2B selling, it's broken. I mean, if this is your space, you're generating MQLs that sales doesn't trust, discovery calls where prospects lie, and demos for people who they ghost you. Maybe they don't even show up. Maybe they stop showing up after the demo. They won't reply to emails, text messages, phone calls, you name it. The average close rate that I see this year, it is a paltry 1 to 4%. The time to close deals, I have seen it balloon up. It's 6 to 12 months right now. Well, what does that mean for us? This is my prediction. In 2026, the companies that win, they'll invert the entire motion. Invert the entire motion. We'll stop educating prospects. We'll start delivering instant value. Think product-led sales, not product-led growth. Product-led sales. In other words, give products and prospects something valuable for free that proves you understand their problem, their pain. Think of this as a calculator, an assessment, could be, I don't know, a play call sheet series. Let them self-qualify. Introduce that friction. Because then your sales team, when they talk to people, they're talking to people who already believe that you can help. Companies doing this right here, right now, it's not unusual to achieve a 12 to 20% close rate. And those sales cycles, they are shrinking down 30 to 60 days in length. By the end of 2026, I am happy to say I believe traditional SaaS demo culture will be dead. I'm calling it right here, right now. Prediction number two, I call it the profitability purge. The profitability purge. For 10 years, the game was growth at all costs. Let's burn cash. Let's raise more. Let's burn more. Let's go IPO. That era, it's over. It's dead. It's buried. I mean, in 2026, I predict this is going to be the year of what I call the profitability purge, where VCs will stop funding unprofitable companies, period. So, if you're an organization like on the left-hand side of the screen here, and you're burning 200K a month at 2 million ARR, you're not scaling. You're dying slowly while pretending you're a startup. And here's what I'm seeing. Companies that get to break even or better are suddenly attractive to buyers, to talent, and to customers. And so my prediction by the end of 2026, we're going to have 40% of currently funded growth stage companies. They will either shut down, get acquired for parts, or do desperation rounds. Think down rounds or turnarounds. Okay. And the ones that survive, they'll be the ones who figured it out. They figured out how to print money, just not spend it. So if you're currently burning cash and you're not profitable, good news. You have 6 to 9 months to fix your unit economics or you're done. That's prediction number two. Let's move on. Prediction number three. I call it the strategy shortage. The strategy shortage. The pendulum swung too far. For years, everyone preached execution over strategy. Execution over strategy. This is the equivalent of move fast, break things, iterate, innovate, and let's leverage AI. That worked when capital was free. But I don't know if you've seen the rates of capital lately. It certainly doesn't work now. My final prediction for 2026, this is going to be the year strategy makes a comeback. Not 6-month planning process strategy, real strategic thinking that's powered by AI. Knowing which specific problems to solve, understanding your actual competitive advantage, and making hard trade-offs about what not to do. The companies that'll win in 2026, they'll think deeply, decide quickly, and they'll execute flawlessly. And the ones that'll miss out, they'll lose. They'll still be moving fast, but in circles while their competitors lap them. So before you execute on anything in 2026, ask, is this the right thing to execute on? Is this the right thing to execute on? It's such a simple question. And if it is right, how can we accelerate through the implementation and execution curves? And how are we going to hold ourselves accountable to our goals? See, here's the thing that I know and I practice, and that is that most companies have an overwhelming number of clarity problems when it comes to identifying the appropriate strategy. No wonder this leads to poor execution results, right? And don't even get me started on goal attainment. I mean, those ships have sailed. All right. So now the most important part, the three places where companies, systematically fail. The three places companies systematically fail. I look at it like this. Every company that scales hits these three walls. It's in direct correlation to the ratchet upward, the stair step of their top line revenue. 5 to 15 million, 15 to 50, and 50 to 500. And I know because I have helped scale organizations from 1 to 10 10 to 500, and I've had two that have crossed over the $1 billion threshold. Most don't make it through these fear steps. But here, I'll give you some tips on how it is that you can break through each one. So I call this inflection number one. It's the founder trap. 5 million to 15 million. You hit 5 million doing it by yourself, typically. You're the best salesperson. You make every big decision. You have every hire approval underneath your hire stamp. And then you try to scale from 5 to 15 million and you can't. Why? Because you are the constraint. You're the bottleneck. Your head of sales that you hired, who was awesome, he can't close without you on calls. Your marketing team, again, awesome, but they wait for you to approve campaigns. Your product roadmap is whatever you decided last Tuesday. I mean, you're not scaling at this level. You're just working harder if this is you. And here's why this happens. You hired doers, not deciders. It might have been awesome, but you wanted people who'd execute your vision, so you hired executors. But executors need direction. They need you. Now you're giving direction to 15 people, 40 hours a week. You have zero time for strategy. The move that breaks through, fire yourself from operations. Hire 2 or 3 people who are legitimately better than you at sales, marketing, and or product, not executors, leaders, and give them actual authority. Let them make decisions you disagree with. Get comfortable being wrong. Okay. Here's a real world example for you. A $7 million software company, the founder was on every sales call. They approved every email that went out and they reviewed every tech sprint. It's crazy. They hired a VP of sales who scaled 2 companies to $50 million. The founder hated his first 90 days, disagreed with half of their decisions. But guess what? They stuck with it. And 6 months later, that VP of sales closed $4 million in new business. And the founder's only involvement, quarterly strategy sessions. The company's looking to hit 14 million 18 months from now. And that founder finally has time to think about what's next instead of firefighting what's now. So that's inflection number one, the founder's trap. Let's talk inflection number two. I call it the complexity collapse. 15 million to 50 million organizations. You hit 15 million by saying yes to everything. Custom deals, one-off features, new verticals. Yep. Yes to everything. Then your gross margin dropped from 75 to 58%. Your team's underwater. Your best people, they're getting off this sinking ship. They're quitting. You're growing, but you're simultaneously drowning. And here's the trap. From 5 million to 15 million, complexity is your friend. You customize to win deals. You enter adjacent markets. You build whatever customers ask for. It's the equivalent of the old panhandler down here in Times Square. Underneath lapel number 1, they've got watches. They got watches over here. You don't want a watch? No problem. Over here, I got ties. What do you need? Okay. Don't need either one of those. You got stuff in the trunk. This works because at that size organization, 5 to 15 million, you're small enough to hustle through it. And you're a grinder, right? That's what you're here for. But at 15 million to 50 million, this is where complexity kills you. You have 400 customers on 17 different contract structures. Your product team supports 6 different versions, and your sales team doesn't know what to sell first. You built a services company disguised as a product company. So what's the move? Move here? Subtraction, not addition. Subtraction, not addition. Kill your worst 30% of customers, fire them. Yes, fire revenue. Sunset low margin products, standardized contracts, pick one ICP and go deep. This is terrifying stuff. How do I know? Because I've done it. And there's nothing like that 3 a.m. panic attack that wakes you up. And by the way, your fractional or full time CFO, they'll tell you're insane. Your sales team, they'll also revolt. And I'm going to encourage you to do it anyway. Here's a real world example: a $22 million cybersecurity firm, 8 different verticals, gross margin 52%, sales team demoralized. We killed 4 verticals, fired 120 customers. Revenue dropped to 18% or dropped to 18 million in 90 days. Leadership had a panic attack. Then something happened. We started recognizing that sales cycles got cut in half. Close rates 2x'd, they doubled. And product velocity 3x, they tripled. And 8 months later, $31 million with 71% gross margin. PE firm, they're looking to acquire them for about 8.2x. The buyer's first comment at the PE firm, the managing director, he said, "You have the cleanest, most focused business we've seen in this space." Inflection number 2, the complexity collapse. Let's move it on here. Let's talk about a little bit about inflection number 3, the strategy vacuum. Organizations looking to go 50 million to 500 million. So let's just say you're at 50 million plus. Real leadership teams, a real board with a board of directors and chairman of the board. And you've got real investors on the cap table. But your chief revenue officer thinks the issue is pipeline. Your chief marketing officer thinks it's brand awareness, and your head of product, they think that you need new features added. Everyone's executing, but nobody's aligned. You're spending 30 million in OpEx and you're going sideways. This happens because you haven't made the hard choices. What businesses are we actually in? Who is our ideal customer? What are we world class at? What should we stop doing? Instead, you're running 11 initiatives because you don't want to tell anyone their idea is wrong. Your leadership team isn't a team. They're a collection of functional leaders acting individually and optimizing their own P&Ls. My guess, you probably have a compensation plan structured so that way they can behave this way. So what's the move? The move is to bring in someone whose only job is strategy. And this goes against my Deloittean background, but not all consultants are brought in equally. And you shouldn't bring in a consultant who bills up by the hour. You're looking for a strategic operator, one who sits with your team and makes you choose. Think interim, think fractional, chief strategy officer, and you're right on. Their job is going to be to kill those sacred cows, to tell your CRO their pipeline strategy is wrong, to tell the CMO brand awareness doesn't matter if your product is mediocre. This chief strategy officer, this person, they facilitate the big 3 decisions, then eliminate 10 conflicting initiatives. Here's a real world example for you. $68 million distribution company, been scaling for 3 years plus, but revenues are flat and EBITDA is declining. I came in as fractional chief strategy officer for 6 months. The first 30 days, I just listened, right? Kind of Dr. Covey's seek first to understand, then to be understood. And then we have a 2-day offsite where we made 3 decisions. Number 1, we need to exit the Northeast region. It's 20% of our revenue and 40% of our headaches. Decision number 2, let's drop our lowest margin product line. It's 15% of revenue, negative contribution margin. Decision number 3, let's build a tech platform to replace manual processes. It's an automation play, right? And it's a 18-month out bet, an 18-month out bet. Leadership gathered around the table, hated it. Too risky, too bold, they said. CEO and I, we did it anyway. And within just a few months, we saw revenue skyrocket. Revenue now, it's at 74 mil, 2x the EBITDA. They are looking to take a $190 million offer from a strategic partner. Those are your 3 inflection points. So let's bring this home. What are you getting today? I put together a play call sheet series. Think of this as the laminated sheet on the sideline that football coach on the weekend is looking at. It's a series of call sheets that leaders use. I know because I built it with them. They consist of key milestones, critical conversations that you need to be having, quick wins, and red flags. If you're participating today, check your inbox. I'll get them over to you. You can download them. Okay. That's what you're getting today. Well, let's talk a little bit about 3 ways that we can work together. One is obviously these play call sheet series. They're free and you're getting it. Number 2, I call it the scale sprint. It's 45K, 90 days of intensive get ready to blow things up. They're for companies that are ready to execute fast. And the third way is my fractional or interim CXO offering. It's ongoing. It's for companies that need to embed leadership within. Okay. I'm not pitching you today, but if what you heard resonates, and you want to talk about a sprint or a fractional role, maybe develop a new play call sheet together, I'll include a calendar link in my follow-up out to you. Okay. My final thought. I have a single provocative question, as my old senior partner would love to say, a single provocative question. What got you to 5 million won't get you to 50 million. And do you know what playbook you need to get to 500 million? Because here's what I know. What got you to 5 million won't get you to 50. And what won't get you to 50 will definitely not get you to 500 million. So the question is, do you know which play call sheet you need? All right, that's it. I promised I'd be done in 30, 35 minutes. I did it. We're going to stick around here. We're going to see if there are any questions. But if nobody has any, again, my name is Sam Palazzolo. Real strategies, real results. If you've enjoyed today's session, give me a thumbs up. Thanks again for joining me, everybody. Thanks, Riley. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. Have a great afternoon.